At the end of the day, I think for early stage investing, it's 80% plus about the founder. Ultimately, it comes down to their obsession with the problem space, with the customer that they're going after. It definitely just helps show that they have some edge or just some hunger to build something massive.
Bryce Johnson is an early stage venture capitalist
focused on hyper-growth tech and AI startups.
What's your view on founder market fit?
It kind of depends on.
Welcome back to Decoded. My name's Alfie Whattam, and this is the show where I speak to experts about what it takes to build great teams and companies. Make sure that you click the follow or subscribe button for more great content like this, and I hope you enjoyed the episode. So Bryce, you're an investor at Primary VC, which has backed Mirror and Alloy and Slice and so many other massively successful companies. So what about you personally? What are you looking for when you're deciding to invest in a startup?
Yeah, it's a good question. I would say we look at a ton of different things, and I look at a ton of different things when I'm first meeting with the founder. My background's actually technical, so I studied computer science. Basically, thought I was going to be a software engineer for my entire life. So I feel like I typically tend to trend towards more technical founders. Typically looking for them to tell me some sort of story about them as a kid or like a childhood, or just like something natural that helps me understand the fire for why they want to start a company. I'd say is the first thing, and then just better understand what within their background or what they've been doing in the previous company or something like that has allowed them to find a unique edge or insight into what they're building now.
So when you're looking at that initial story of them growing up, I think it's important. When I do my angel investing, I do the same thing. I want to find some example of something in their background and their track record where they've had extraordinary performance, whether that's a hobby or athletics or even video gaming or whatever, some project they've done where they've achieved top 1%, because that success tends to replicate later on in life. Is that where you're coming at, where you're looking at the background?
Yeah, I think that's it. It's at the end of the day, I think for early stage investing, and we do seed and pre-seed, honestly, for the most part here at Primary, it's 80% plus about the founder. They pick the market, and we have interests in obviously specific markets, but it ultimately comes down to them, their obsession with the problem space, with the customer that they're going after. And so, yeah, if I can find some unique thing that they had done in their past background, it definitely just helps show that they have some edge or just some hunger to build something massive.
So when you're talking about the market just then, obviously, look, you've got a thesis and you're picking, certain verticals, and the founder also is going after a problem that's personal and unique to them, hopefully. But how do you evaluate that founder market fit? Is it important to you that the founder really understands the domain that they're in, or are you less bothered about that and you're just kind of looking for smart people to work on really smart problems, regardless of if they've really got any exposure to them before? What's your view on founder market fit?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting question because it kind of depends on the founder and the market they're building in. So obviously there are some markets or some founders that maybe have never built in the space or have not worked in the space, and they're coming kind of from that third party lens and can actually see the idiosyncrasies or see the inefficiencies within specific market. So, for example, I don't know, in the healthcare space, you have some of my good friends from Stanford, actually. Diego Ball and Trey Holterman started a company in the healthcare space. They pivoted into it, but effectively did not have healthcare experience in the past or in their backgrounds. They were athletes at Stanford, and so as we were talking about right before, some insane grit or need to build, and I don't know, it's the tolerance to handle pain, I feel is a big thing too when you're starting a company. So they definitely had that, but didn't have the healthcare experience, but then came into the space and figured it out. So you don't always need to have built in the space before, have experience in the space before, but that's an example. I think you can go from the other side. There's a company in our portfolio called Mayburn, which basically does it's like an automated platform for private equity fund admin. And so they're on the back office side of the house for private equity firms and help effectively the CFOs and finance and back office folks and private equity firms better work with LPAs, work with waterfall calculations and things like that. So all the nitty gritty stuff that goes into private equity fund management. But then you have Ross Mechanic and Ashwin, who were the founders of that company, who had basically built something kind of tangential at Cadre, who had then figured out that, oh, wow, these private equity firms are so inefficient. It's insane. Let's like automate a lot of the processes. So those are like just two examples of both sides. So you can kind of have the like founder market fit, or just completely like third party founder that comes in and wants to disrupt a whole space.
Sometimes those outside eyeballs can be super helpful because you don't know what you're getting into. And like,
exactly.
I mean, we've seen it work really well with certain people. Like, you know, Mark Zuckerberg didn't work for Friendster before he started Facebook. I mean, so you know, it's not essential, but it can be super helpful. Like I spent 10 years working in recruiting before I started my AI recruitment startup. And because of that, there's like a million little 1% improvements within the products that we know about, which somebody that's never been in that domain, they'd have no idea where to begin. So I'm with you. It can be super helpful, but it's not essential if you've got like some legendary founder who just manages to absorb the pain, and that's so key, isn't it? Like Elon says that doing a startup is like eating glass and staring into the abyss, and that's kind of the pain that you have to go through if you want to go on that journey.
It's insane, and I have never started a company before. I grew up thinking I wanted to be, like I was saying before, software engineer and then entrepreneur back when I was a kid, like whatever that meant. But it's funny. So going to Stanford, actually, like all of my friends now are founders, and I actually live with 3 different founders of different companies, and so we're kind of in this like startup house in New York, and so I've lived vicariously through all of them to see the ups and downs. And so they're at different stages: seed, Series A, Series C now. And so it's been cool to see, but also it's like mad respect that it is, as you're talking about, it is painful, but the highs are very high.
That must be a very bipolar household, like emotions like fluctuating crazy. This is a quick message to tell you about my company, Alpha AI. We built Lisa, the world's first AI-powered recruiter who screens candidates for you on autopilot. You can make your recruitment process 10 times faster, 90% lower cost, and significantly improve the candidate experience, all with our AI agent for hiring. Learn more at welovealpha.com or click the link below in the description. And now, back to the episode. But let's go a little tactical. So you've seen so many pitches, you know, hundreds, thousands. Like, what are like the red flags that you were often seeing within a deck or within a pitch itself? Like, what are the things that founders are doing which are turning you off? Like, a lot of people listening to this, they're pre-seed, they're seed, that they're trying to raise money from VCs like you. Like, what should they stop doing to help increase their chances?
Yeah. I actually have a few things for this question.
Go for it. We have time.
Okay, awesome. So there's a few things that they shouldn't be doing. Super tactically, you should not be saying that you want to get acquired as your exit strategy. I think that's just like the number one thing.
On a pre-seed deck as well.
Yeah, pre-seed, seed, wherever it can be. I would not put that as an exit opportunity. It's like VCs are looking for IPOs, and that's pretty much it. M&A obviously can be super important and a great outcome for the founder and potentially the VC too. But oftentimes we're just looking for the founder to want to just go big and shoot for the moon. So that's the one thing. This is but it is you should have this. You should always have like a why now slide in pitches, especially in the day and age that we're in now of AI kind of disrupting everything. I think just having some sort of like, this solution would not have been possible 2 to 3 years ago, and that's why I'm building now is super important. So I think those are like honestly the 2 biggest things that I would say that come off the top of mind.
Yeah. I hate it when people show previous example. I mean, it's a personal thing, and I might not be right, but I hate it when people show examples of like competitors in their space that have been acquired and what the values are,
Hmm.
and then those values are often like less than what it would take to return the fund. Because then it's like you're
Yes.
reading that and you're like, wait, is this what I want to do? Not really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing I feel like another big flag just has to do with market sizing and TAM. So
Mm.
just making sure that that's crisp and large enough, honestly.
Yeah.
Um,
In the billions,
it's
or at
kind
least the hundreds of
Yeah,
billions,
like it
and it's
needs to
growing.
be I would
Yeah.
say it needs to be in the billion, because hundreds of millions, you're still like, we are looking for a company to get to 100 mil in
Yeah.
revenue.
Sure. Yeah.
And it's probably not going to take 5 to 10% of the entire market. So you want the market size to at least be in a few billions.
And I wouldn't say you need to do like genius level analysis to break this down into like you just want to show like very clearly in a couple of sentences like, hey, here's how I've calculated the TAM, and
Yeah.
here's how fast it's growing, and you just make it simple and easy to understand. Like people overcomplicate that slide. I see it
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah. I think you can make it pretty simple. I think honestly, personally, it's doing it from a bottoms up
Yeah.
standpoint also, I feel like to me is more accurate and can be helpful, instead of just like pulling, oh yeah, the market's 20 billion.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, who are your actual, because it helps me understand who your customers are and who you think your ICP is going to be. So it's like, okay, if we're going after these small SMBs, there's 20 million, sorry, SMBs in the US or something like that, 30 million. We're charging X thousands. This is exactly what I think my TAM's going to be.
Yeah.
And so it helps us understand more on your customer and how you're thinking about pricing.
What about on the unpopular opinion, contrarian side of the coin? Is there anything that you believe which maybe not everybody around you or everybody in venture does? Like, are there any opinions that you hold which might be a little bit left field?
I don't know if this is left field, but I think the biggest one is always read, and this is for VCs, but it's like always read inbound emails.
Yeah, most people
We
don't
get
do
a
that.
ton of them. Most people don't. Most VCs are just like, oh, it's low quality. I get a ton of these, but you can find diamonds in the rough there. And so I think it's important to just give everyone like some sort of time. I'm not saying we most definitely don't do a good job of responding to all of them, but just making sure that you're doing that. And so from the founder side of the house, I would still encourage founders to obviously a cold outreach. Things like this podcast help you actually understand who VCs are.
Yeah. This is my
And
cold
where they're
outreach
coming from.
strategy.
Exactly.
It's a great
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
So founders can use that, can use LinkedIn, can use Twitter to reach out to people, because honestly, like, we are doing the same thing. It's like, I am scouring LinkedIn, I'm on Twitter looking for founders who are building in stealth, and we're just started the company, and I'm also doing the outreach. And so I think you can do it kind of the other way around. It's just making sure you have a punchy hook.
Yeah.
So
Cold outreach in many ways can teach you a lot about cold sales, and that's something that you need to do if
Mhm.
you're scaling, certainly in like B2B, and even in B2C it can help you with the craft of the copying of the ads, because that's so critical. It's just communication, like a quick intro, the hook, and the sizzle, and the close, and then the ability to handle objections. But I'm with you. I read cold inbound. I mean, like 99% of it is trash, and that's just like the way it is, right? But you're right, there are diamonds in the rough. But for people that are doing cold outbound, I think just do it smarter. Just invite them to speak at an event that you host, or a podcast, or invite them to write for a blog, or offer value somehow, rather than it just being about you all the time. Like, you must get a lot of cold people trying to reach you. How many of them are actually adding value and trying to be helpful?
That's a hard percentage.
Yeah.
I don't actually know what it would be, but it's like, for this I answered, and so it is like, if it's meeting an interesting person, if they have a good hook, if it's a founder who can like quickly explain their business and themselves, honestly, I think is the more important thing. I feel like you're more likely to reach out. And so, like, just going back to, I think the things that really matter for early stage investors, like, once again, it is completely the founder. And so if I can just get a quick snippet of who you are as a person, and like an interesting thing you've done, it'll make me more inclined to respond
Certainly.
or reach out, honestly. So
Yeah. So look, you were featured by Business Insider on their VC Rising Stars list. So I speak to a lot of people in my network that are just getting into venture, and
Yeah.
there's probably people that listen to the show that are just getting into investing. So what advice would you give to like a fresh new VC that's just
Hmm.
starting their career? They haven't done any deals yet. They might be an intern or like a junior associate
Yeah.
or something. Like they're sitting in on pitches, they're starting to review outreach. But like what advice would you give to them when it comes to the process of finding founders, of vetting them, of investing, of diligence? Like, what would your general advice be in that area?
Yeah. I think I would narrow it down, like bucket it into it's like the sourcing, the diligence, and then the portfolio support. I think when I started my venture career, the first thing I did was just scour the earth and go and try and meet as many people as I could in New York and San Francisco, just across the board. And so it was like doing a lot of the cold outreach, which is typically how you get a job in venture too, is you're usually cold outbounding to
Yeah.
investors, which honestly does not change when you actually become a VC. And so that was kind of like the first thing I did, going to events. And so it was meeting these other investors, it was meeting just founders, like I was talking about before, just on LinkedIn. Um, and through other networks, through school networks, through clubs, through accelerator programs. And it's like literally you're scouring the earth. I think is to start with a high top of funnel, because that also increases the surface area of uh, I like this phrase of like increasing the surface area of luck,
Yeah. Yeah.
and like serendipity, which I think um, is a lot of what venture is. It's making sure that you have spread your web wide enough so that people can think of you when they're leaving their job to start a company, or they have a friend that's starting a company and they think of you, and so it's just expanding your network and surface area there. Um, and so that's to start. And then I think it's once you've kind of done that, uh, it's starting to hone in on your own viewpoints, opinions, and basically just like have a voice. Have a voice in it can be external, like on LinkedIn and posting and doing a podcast. But I think it's also important to just make sure you have a voice internal,
Mm.
within your firm, which can be difficult because it's like for me, I started in this job when I was like 24, was, in the room with Ben's son, Meet Us List Investor, with Bryce, who's the other co-founder of Primary, in investment team meetings, being like, oh my gosh, I don't know anything. This is like
Yeah.
all these people have been in venture forever. And so I think it's just making sure that you have a voice you can come with, like a key insight or two from all of the people you've talked with and all of the research you've done, in specific spaces. You don't have to be an expert, and actually you're not basically supposed to be an expert as a VC. You want the founder to show you the way a bit, and so just making sure that you have that voice. So I think those were like the biggest things in terms of like sourcing, and then that kind of gets into like diligence and having a unique perspective on things.
So you're absolutely right that there are basically like no VC jobs advertised. Like it's a relationship
Yeah.
driven world, and I think that's kind of, I know we were talking about how cold outreach can be useful, but
Mhm.
there is a real like understanding as to why the warm intro world is the way it is, because it's like the test of a founder.
Yeah.
Can you get a warm intro, or can you use a creative strategy to get in front of somebody? And if you can't, then you probably won't be able to do that with customers or with
Mhm.
partners to grow the company. So, but that's true. Like you need to master that part. And then you're right, having a voice, having an opinion, not just like you're not going to survive in this world if you're basically mute, sitting in the corner. You need to stand up
Yeah.
and share your perspective and your thesis on how the world will be changed.
Yeah.
What about when it comes to portfolio support? You mentioned that a moment ago. Is there any kind of key things you'd share with people on how they can best support founders that the fund has invested in?
Yeah. It's interesting for Primary because we have one of the largest, I'd say, like portfolio operations team.
Mm.
We call it our impact team, and there's, I want to say, 40 plus people now on that team. And so we like literally have recruiters in house that help with hiring. We have go to market function as well that helps with top of funnel. I'd say obviously those are probably the two biggest areas.
Yeah.
Like value add levers that VCs can pull and support with. To help founders. And once again, a lot of that is just having the network and just making the time
Mm.
To be with the founders. I think another, like, those are two like tangible ones. I think the other intangible one is kind of like the psychological aspect of being a founder and starting a company, and that's an area where I think VCs can maybe do a better job of. But it's just like making sure that we're there for the founders, kind of on the business side and the personal side when it's applicable, and just making sure that we're helping them kind of in general, making sure that they're taking care of themselves, like kind of like we were talking about before we started recording, but just making sure they're taking care of themselves
Yeah.
and things like that. And so I think I've gleaned that more of just living with a few founders and seeing that side of the picture, which obviously directly translates into business outcomes, or can translate into business outcomes, but it's helping them and supporting them, when it's not 9 to 9 and it's after that.
Yeah. I'm terrible at this myself, at managing the balance aspect. I mean,
Yes.
you kind of got to be a little bit obsessed.
There's no balance.
Yeah.
There's not supposed to be balance.
I know. Look, Bryce, this has been super useful for people that just then want to get into venture, but people that want to get into, starting a company or growing an existing one. So the people that have enjoyed this, if they want to learn a little bit more about you, LinkedIn, X, the fund's website, where should they go to? Like, if
you can just connect with me on LinkedIn. Send a nice note, a nice outreach note.
Cool. Test the quality of them.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Amazing. Thanks for your time. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for watching. Make sure that you click the follow or subscribe button wherever you're watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.
Introducing Lisa, the world's first AI-powered recruiter. She's an AI agent who works 24/7, screening candidates on autopilot, conducting interviews in 30 different languages, uploading all the best candidates to your applicant tracking system. Hire 10 times faster at 90% lower cost, and significantly improve the candidate experience. Visit welovealpha.com to start your free trial now.